come over to the academic site here, fordham.edu, it lists for us the entirety of Dictatus Papae. Okay. And it's one page. We got a lot of lazy boys out there that can't read. So let's, again, look at this. The Roman Church is founded by God alone. The Roman Pontiff is alone universal. He alone can depose or reinstate bishops. Everybody should realize that this is not the way the church functioned in the first 1,000 years, right? And most educated Roman Catholics, they're totally aware of this, and they say, well, this is a legitimate development. This is a revolution. Totally different ecclesiology, clearly. He alone can depose emperors. He appoints and approves all the bishops in the world. No synods are ecumenical without him. Nothing is canonical without his authority. So he now judges and is the judge of canon law. He's not subject to the canons, you see. Other councils prior to this subjected the Roman Pontiff to the canons, a la Honorius being excommunicated. That means he's subject to the canons and the decision of the church. Now it is flipped. The church is subject to the decision and the determination of the Roman Pontiff. Everyone honest with themselves should be able to see that this is clear as day. Dictatus Papae, 1075, included in the papal register by Pope Gregory VII. This is a revolution. It's clear as day. Have you heard the Roman Catholic apologists address Dictatus Papae? No, they handwave it. Because it's extremely embarrassing and it's a killer argument. No one can judge the first see. See that? Number 19? And yet what do we have today in the Roman Catholic world and yesterday in the Roman Catholic world? About 40-50% of the Roman Catholic world judging the first see and the first see's decisions on moral issues. What does Vatican I say about the charism of Peter protecting the Roman See when it teaches on faith and morals? It is preserved from error. And it is said that in that same phraseology, all the way back here, at least, to Dictatus Papae 22. What does that one say? The Roman Church has never erred, nor will it err unto all eternity, as Scripture says. Even though it had already occurred that Honorius taught error as a bishop of the Roman See, he taught monothelitism. He's not just condemned by the Sixth Council, he's condemned by 3 successive councils in the Synodicon. So it is simply false that the Roman Church never erred from a couple centuries prior to this. And remember, Dictatus Papae is partly based on forgeries that were not yet admitted to be forgeries. Now it is admitted that these are forgeries. What this is based on, things like the Symmachian documents, Symmachian forgeries, the Galatian decretals, donation of Constantine, right? All the big ones. And yet, things like the first see is judged by no one is still in Roman Catholic canon law. So it's not that difficult. Quite simply, the system itself is an airtight system that is constructed that either works because there aren't errors and contradictions, or there are contradictions and it doesn't work. It's that simple. And rather than all of the nuances of the theology, which is important, we could spend all day, we've done years of streams on the theology and the nuance in Rome and all that. As Father Moses pointed out, Can we not just look to the morals, and have there been changes in the morals? Now, when Francis says the death penalty is outdated and it's contrary to the gospel, to me it's pretty obvious that's a change in moral teaching. To the Roman Catholic, no, it's time for me now to engage in what's called casuistry. Somebody said, why are you using $8 words? I don't know what's an $8 word. That's at least a $100 word, bro. Casuistry is the term for when people engage in sophistry, particularly in the domain of ethics, to make their obvious nonsense work. Now, we already saw it, as we said, with the change in the death penalty. And we've already covered it. And you'll notice that they just ignore it. They just move on. Lofton says, oh, it's not a change, and he moves on and ignores it, hand waves it. Meanwhile, Tim and Trent are debating it. But if we needed a clearer change in morals, I can't think of a clearer change than what has just happened. And outside of the trads and Tim and people in that sphere, they're lying. They're outright lying because they know that it's a change. And they're doing the same old bureaucratic trick, and the people are falling for it, right, that the Vatican always does. You do the doublespeak, move the Overton window, and you know that the psychology of human psychology is to double down and keep defending the position when there's been an obvious change. And I'm going to show you an obvious change. And even Tim admitted it. What's the obvious change? In 2003, the Congregation for the Doctrine of Faith, that's Ratzinger's office, right, when he was the head of the CDF, which is the successor to, let's do it this way, the successor to the Holy Office, right, of the Inquisition. I'm not joking. It's actually called the Congregation for the Doctrine of Faith, CDF, for the propagation of faith, whatever, all these different titles. But this is the successor to the Holy Office of the Inquisition. Ratzinger was, for many years before being elected Pope, the head of this. Okay, and there were questions coming in 2003. What about legal civil recognition or blessings to Skittles and other types of things? Because remember, there's other options beyond just Skittles. Did you think that Skittles was the only alternative lifestyle? There's thruples, there's polycules, there's INCEST. There's all manner of creative lifestyle that a person might choose. Now, this document says it is problematic at every level. There cannot be a recognition of it. It's contrary to, according to Ratzinger, right reasoning. It is contrary to biology, contrary to anthropology, contrary to the social order, and even contrary to a healthy civil order. It does grave injustice to the common good. So it cannot be reviewed and changed. Now, Francis, in his recent dubia, the questions that he answered, already answered this and compared the union between two Skittles to the union of man and woman, and said that there are positive aspects to that union, even though we can't full out say, all right, it's a marriage. So now what they did to move the Overton window was, rather than getting you to debate about a marriage, what about blessings for couples? And then the casuistry engine went into overdrive to explain that, well, the blessing of this sinner and the blessing of this sinner is just the blessing of sinners. No, it's not. You're lying to yourselves because the document says the blessing of a couple. Can you count? Well, a couple is just two individuals. It's a couple, dummy, and you know it. And you're liars. Everybody in the world, except for the hamster wheel of the Pope-splainers in their mind, and the hamster wheel that keeps running, knows that this is a change. For one, the 2003 Ratzinger Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith says that it can't be, you can't allow it, and it should not be promoted as a civil union by the state, and it certainly can't be blessed, even if it's irregular. Now, blessings of couples in irregular situations. Within the horizon outline here, the possibility of blessings for couples, it's here. In such cases, blessings may be imparted. And all of these liars are saying, well, it's just a blessing of people who are sinners. No, did you not hear the entire conversation that Tim gave explaining how in Roman Catholic theology this makes no sense? It's like they're only concerned with the sophistry of the letters, of the wording, the lettering, how they can twist that to make it work, when moral theology says very clearly that you can't participate in the sins of others. In Catholic theology, okay? Catholic moral theology, I can't, oh, you two guys are going to go murder? Oh, well, let me give you a blessing as a couple of sinners as you go to murder. But I'm not for murder. And everybody in the world can see this is lying sophistry, except for these stooges. Even James Martin says that I'm all aboard the Frank train. So here's what I said. If you watched Tim's show, he explained it very clearly. Tim was spot on in his analysis. He correctly notes that the blessing itself is of the couple, the union, as the document says. It doesn't say we're just going to grant a blessing to... No, it's intentionally couples. This is to warm you up to the next phase, dummies. You don't understand moving the Overton window? You're that dumb? You're that low IQ? This is why you keep getting played. And you're going to look even dumber as you double down. And by 2030, when Francis is sacrificing the infants in St. Peter's Square, or whoever his indigenous successor is, you're going to be saying, well, it's not an mortal sin version of infant sacrifice, because it's infant sacrifice to Pachamama, not for Pachamama. That's the next level, right? I'm being silly, but not really.